It was supposed to be just another phone call until it wasn't. Minutes after Big U allegedly called a close associate to say Nipsey Hussle had just been killed, Nipsey was still alive. That's right, by the time Nip actually got shot, Big U had already made the call. Think about that. The timeline didn't match. Now, for years, folks in the streets whispered about Big U's alleged involvement in Nipsey's murder, but they didn't have proof. Until now, a leaked clip from a surveillance camera, one Big U likely didn't know was recording, has started to circulate. And the audio, it's raising more questions than answers.
Big U said too much. And what's haunting is how casually it all seemed. In that clip, there's no panic, no grief, just control. That's when the internet lit up. He knew! That's what the comments read over and over. When you're a leader in the community, every move counts. But if this leak is real, it could be the beginning of the end. Always check who's watching when you think no one is. What if Nipsey's death wasn't personal beef, but business? When Nipsey was gunned down outside the Marathon clothing store, the public was told it was about street pride. Eric Holder upset over a snitch comment, but insiders say that explanation was too clean, too convenient, because Nipsey wasn't just a rapper, he was building an empire. Real estate, tech, community programs, all rooted in Crenshaw. That kind of power, it scared people, especially those who once controlled him. Enter Big U, Nipsey's former manager, OG figure in the rolling 60s, an alleged enforcer behind the scenes. Their relationship had soured. Nipsey had grown beyond the hood politics and wanted independence. But freedom has a cost. Holder was a trigger man. But who gave the green light? Some believe Nipsey's rising influence was a threat, one that had to be neutralized, the kind of move you make when you're protecting an empire, not settling a petty score. When the motive doesn't match the method, dig deeper. The streets never needed court docs to believe Big U was involved. From day one, folks were connecting dots that prosecutors ignored. Nipsey and Big U had a known falling out. Their families were entangled. Big U's niece had a child with Nipsey. Business tension, personal friction, gang politics, but nobody could prove anything. Then came the 2025 RICO indictment. The feds dropped a bomb, murder, fraud, extortion, trafficking, all allegedly tied to Big U's nonprofit. The same organization he used to preach peace was now painted as a front. That indictment shook LA to its core. But here's the kicker. Within those pages, mentions of erased footage, strategic retaliation, and a studio-based murder eerily mirrored what happened to Nipsey. And patterns don't lie. People do. And if Big U really did scrub footage in the past to protect himself, then maybe Nipsey's cameras didn't lie either. In the world of RICO cases, patterns are everything. Prosecutors don't need a smoking gun, they need a story that makes sense. And this one's starting to write itself. Connect enough dots and a picture starts to form. Here's where things get strange. The cameras around Marathon clothing were always meant for protection. But what if they became the very thing that exposed the setup? LAPD secured surveillance from multiple angles, street, storefront, even across the parking lot. Most of that footage was locked away. But one clip, it leaked. And it caught Big U on a phone call moments before the fatal shots, talking about Nipsey in the past tense. Let that sink in. Nipsey wasn't dead yet, but Big U spoke like it was done. That alone sent shockwaves. But deeper analysis revealed something wilder. Big U was near the area, not in the cut, not hours away, near, too close for comfort. Coincidence doesn't come with timestamps. The footage has since vanished, supposedly taken down. But in the age of the internet, nothing really disappears. Copies were made, an audio file exists. And every day more people are demanding the full release. Because truth lives in pixels, the powerful forget. The feds weren't fooled by the Community Leader Act. In March 2025, Big U was arrested under sweeping federal RICO charges. The indictment, ugly, alleged murder for hire, human trafficking, witness intimidation, and organized fraud, all allegedly operated through his nonprofit, Developing Options. The same nonprofit that got praise from city officials and celebrities for saving the youth. But behind the awards and staged interviews, prosecutors say it was a cover, an engine of criminal power. Big U's empire allegedly blended community work and gang enforcement into a single operation. And here's what's chilling, Nipsey had pulled away from that world. He didn't want to be developed. He was building his own options, no strings attached. And nothing threatens a puppet master more than a free man. Nipsey's refusal to play the game, his refusal to fall in line may have made him expendable, especially in a world where power isn't given, it's taken. When the nonprofit's purpose becomes profit, watch who gets silenced next. Enter SKG and the silence breaks. SKG, a rapper once affiliated with Death Row and close to the West Coast scene, didn't bite her tongue. In a bold 2025 interview, she accused Big U of orchestrating Nipsey Hussle's murder. She called him a monster, claimed he ran extortion rackets, and even recounted being allegedly attacked at Nip's store while pregnant with Big U's name behind the muscle. That wasn't just smoke, it was a flamethrower. Her accusations were brutal, and they came right after Big U's RICO arrest. Coincidence? Doubtful, because SKG had been quiet for years, but the moment Big U was in handcuffs, she started naming names, and others began chiming in too. When one voice cracks the silence, others follow.
Her claims aren't proven in court, but they align with a pattern that's becoming harder to ignore. Women, artists, and street figures describing the same tactics: intimidation, manipulation, fear.
Truth might be buried deep, but people are finally starting to dig. Before we uncover what Big U allegedly said on tape, hit that like button if you think Nipsey's story deserves a real investigation, not just a court verdict, and drop a comment. Do you believe Eric Holder acted alone, or was he a pawn in a bigger play? Let's get into the footage, the cover-ups, and the trap Big U may have accidentally walked into himself. Behind closed doors, whispers turn to warnings. One of the most underreported moments in Nipsey's story involves a parking lot showdown, a rumored altercation between Big U, Nipsey, and Nip's brother Black Sam. According to multiple street-level sources, the confrontation got physical. Some say it escalated to the point where Black Sam allegedly drew a weapon to protect Nipsey and their father from Big U's wrath. That ain't brotherly love. This wasn't a random disagreement, it was reportedly over turf, money, and respect, and when Nipsey began pushing for more independence, cutting out Big U's influence on business matters, it allegedly fractured the foundation completely. Power struggles don't end in boardrooms in South LA, they end in blood. Big U never publicly addressed the altercation, but insiders say it was the beginning of the end, a split so deep it could only lead to destruction or betrayal. Real beef doesn't go viral. It simmers, then explodes. Here's where things stop looking random. In 2021, aspiring rapper Rayon Ron Williams was killed in Las Vegas. And guess what prosecutors allege? Big U was behind it, not just as a passive player, but as the architect. The kicker? He allegedly erased studio security footage to cover his tracks. That sounds familiar. Just like Nipsey's case, the narrative points to a calculated execution, one that doesn't just involve pulling the trigger, but scrubbing the trail. And this time, it's not conspiracy, it's in the federal indictment. Prosecutors say Big U orchestrated the crime to maintain control over a growing musical roster and silence resistance. Control the footage, control the truth. This pattern mirrors Nip's final moments. Cameras malfunctioning, key clips missing, timeline inconsistencies. And now the feds are saying that ain't new for Big U. When the crime looks the same, the killer often does too. Nipsey wasn't just building a brand, he was building out. He rejected multiple music deals, refused to play puppet for big labels, and took his grind independent. But the part few talk about, he allegedly turned down a revival deal from Big U. According to insiders, Big U wanted back in. He saw the momentum Nip was gaining and he wanted a piece. Nip said no. That was dangerous. In some circles, no isn't just a denial, it's disrespect, especially when it comes from someone you once had power over. To lose that control, that leverage, that's war. Independence is rebellion when you're dealing with kings who want subjects. And as Nipsey's investments spread, STEM centers, crypto initiatives, gang intervention, he was replacing the very systems Big U allegedly used to hold power. That's not evolution, that's a threat. He wasn't just leaving the streets behind. He was trying to rebuild them, and people who profit off chaos don't want order. Build something real and they'll try to bury it. Sometimes you don't need an informant, you just need someone to forget the mic is on. One of the wildest claims now surfacing is that Big U was caught on a hot mic during a closed-door phone call, possibly while connected to a studio intercom system. The recording, said to have been archived for internal use, was never meant to go public, until someone leaked it. In the alleged audio, Big U references the boy being gone and needing people to fall back to avoid heat. The tone? Calm. confident, like a mission was complete. Nothing confirmed yet, but when asked about the leak, Big U refused to deny it outright. When silence is safer than denial, something's off. And just like the studio clip in the Rayon Williams case, this new leak could become admissible if verified. For now, the streets believe it's real, because in the court of public opinion, timing and tone matter more than transcripts. Accidental recordings reveal intentional moves. Nipsey wasn't just preaching change, he was acting on it. On April 1st, 2019, Nip was scheduled to meet with LAPD Chief Michael Moore and Roc Nation to discuss gang violence reduction. The very next day, he never made it. And that's what started a storm of speculation. Was his murder random, or was someone trying to stop that meeting? Law enforcement called it coincidence. But for many, it didn't sit right. You don't set up a meeting with the LAPD to unify neighborhoods one day and then get murdered in your own neighborhood the next. Peace was a threat. Not to the streets, but to those who profit from chaos. Nipsey had reach. He had trust. He had authenticity that no mayor or chief could fake. That kind of influence doesn't go unnoticed, especially not by people trying to maintain control, whether gang leaders, corrupt officials, or hidden industry hands. When peace talks get silenced, someone's agenda just won. After Nipsey died, something eerie happened. Developing options. The same nonprofit tied to Big U started ramping up community activity again. More funding, more programs, more city backing. It's almost as if someone was ready to step in the moment Nipsey was gone. Coincidence? Maybe. But street analysts believe a power vacuum was created, and certain figures were all too ready to fill it. Nipsey represented self-sufficiency. He didn't just take resources, he created them. The replacement efforts? They often came with strings attached, favors owed, and alleged backroom deals. You don't replace a visionary with a volunteer. When the feds arrested Big U in 2025, it stopped that motion cold. Funding froze. Projects stalled. And now people are asking, was developing options allegedly used to maintain control once Nipsey was out of the picture? Because when the person who uplifts the hood dies and the contracts start flying, something ain't right. Follow the money. It'll lead you to the motive. The deeper this goes, the darker it gets. In one of his pre-arrest rants, Big U didn't just defend himself. He accused Wack 100, a known LA music executive and provocateur, of threatening to take his contracts and working with the FBI to freeze his funding. Sounds paranoid? Or just informed? Big U claimed that federal agents met with city officials and celebrities to blacklist him before charges even dropped. He said calls were made, deals pulled, donations shut down. If true, it suggests he wasn't just under investigation, he was being isolated. Pressure doesn't start in court, it starts in silence. And this changes everything, because it means Big U may have known something or someone that made him expendable. And in the music industry, where contracts are currency and silence is gold, that kind of threat doesn't survive long. When power moves quietly, paranoia starts to sound like a warning. Then there's the theory that refuses to die. Nipsey was allegedly working on a documentary about Dr. Sebi, the controversial herbalist who claimed to have cured AIDS and beat the US government in court. Months before Nip's death, rumors swirled he was digging deep, interviewing family, gathering court transcripts, sourcing footage, and then he was gone. The project stalled, the footage disappeared, and people started asking if this was about more than street beef. Some claimed the government didn't want that documentary made. Others pointed fingers at Big Pharma, the Illuminati, even industry gatekeepers with dark secrets to protect. Wild? Maybe? But remember, Nipsey was scheduled to meet with police, was fighting for community control and pushing holistic health. That's 3 lanes of influence the establishment doesn't like intersecting. Truth is dangerous when it's organized. And whether or not the Dr. Sebi angle holds water, what's undeniable is this: Nipsey represented freedom. And freedom in too many cases gets framed as rebellion. And rebellion, that gets silenced fast. Let's follow the oldest question in any investigation. Who benefits? Nipsey was disrupting music industry middlemen, owning masters, buying back the block, promoting black wealth, and organizing gang peace summits. He was erasing the blueprint designed to keep people dependent. So when he died, who stood to gain? Look around. Labels he rejected grew stronger. Nonprofits he broke from expanded. Artists once blocked by his rise got deals, and people once sidelined by his voice started getting press time. Coincidence? Maybe. But even law enforcement used his death to justify new surveillance budgets in South LA. You don't need to pull the trigger to profit from the body. Whether or not Big U gave the order, there were players who had every reason to see Nipsey fall. And when the smoke cleared, they were standing right where he once stood. In murder investigations, motive isn't just emotion, it's economy. Let's rewind the entire narrative. Eric Holder pulls the trigger. He's caught on camera. He's convicted. Case closed, right? But that's the problem. It was too clean. LAPD had the shooter, the motive, and the weapon all within hours. But here's what they didn't explain. How did Holder know Nipsey was there with no security that day? That wasn't public info. Nipsey moved carefully. He never stayed long at the Marathon store. But on March 31st, 2019, someone knew he was going to be there. Someone told Eric Holder exactly when to pull up. And that woman who drove him there, she vanished from the media like she never existed. Convenient clarity usually hides complex chaos. If Holder was a pawn, then who was playing chess behind him? And why was the city so quick to seal the narrative? Real conspiracies aren't loud, they're surgical. Not everyone was silent. Before the murder, a handful of insiders and street prophets dropped clues. Cryptic lyrics, obscure interviews, subtle warnings. Rapper Glasses Malone once said Nipsey's loyalty was gonna cost him. Former associates hinted that real enemies wear familiar faces. Even Cat Williams made indirect references to Hollywood setups in Crip politics with federal fingerprints. But nobody listened until it was too late. Because the thing about truth, it never screams. It whispers in contracts, in sudden fallouts, in vanishing footage, and friends who stop calling. You don't need a smoking gun to smell smoke. Now those old interviews are resurfacing. People are watching them differently, listening to what was said, and more importantly, what wasn't. When silence echoes, it's saying something. Here's what's crazy. Big U's 2025 RICO arrest might do what no one else could: reopen the Nipsey case from the outside in. The feds aren't just looking at money laundering and fraud anymore, they're digging into patterns, tactics, footprints. And if enough of those match what happened in 2019, then Eric Holder might not be the only name on paper. Already, new witnesses have come forward. People who were too afraid to talk before. Why? Because power was still active. But with Big U behind bars, that power's been disrupted. The code of silence is cracking, and the industry is sweating. When an empire falls, secrets start spilling. Nipsey always said, the highest human act is to inspire. Maybe, just maybe, his death might spark the very reckoning he was fighting for in life. Truth doesn't die, it just waits for the right moment. Nipsey's death was never just about hood politics. It was about what happens when a black man becomes too powerful, too independent, and too unbought. When he threatens the structure, whether it's in the streets, the music industry, or City Hall, he becomes a target. And the people behind the scenes, they move in shadows. But here's the thing, shadows disappear when the light comes. In this case, it's finally seeing daylight. If you're still watching, you're part of that light.